Hi, I'm Peyton Purdue.
And I'm Bella Vandeveer.
This is our capstone project for advanced visual journalism at Western Washington University.
Our video features Free and Raven Borsey, brothers from the Lummi Nation, who are working to revive the Lummi canoe family tradition and preserve cultural heritage.
In 2024, the Borsey brothers won the Bullet Prize, which is $100,000 that they're using to restore traditional canoes and support tribal heritage.
Their work blends cultural preservation with ecological education, helping to pass on knowledge to the next generation.
Their work is truly inspiring, and we feel both privileged and honored to get to share a glimpse of their story. We hope you enjoy.
Even though we accidentally kind of came about being a part of this canoe family, it reshaped the way our lives, could have been, and it provided a safe space for us, nurtured us. It taught us about responsibility to the ecosystem, responsibility to our communities, responsibility to our culture, and carrying that forward. My name is Free Borsey. My traditional name is Sakvilam. I'm a member of the Lummi Nation. I've worked here at Children of the Setting Sun Productions, wearing many different hats, event planning. I just recently stepped into the role of being the Environmental Stewardship Specialist at Setting Sun Institute. I'm also an artist and a canoe skipper. Well, I guess this story starts a lot earlier than the Lummi canoe family. This story actually started sometime in either the 70s or 80s during the Washington Centennial Accord, where it's celebrating 100 years of Washington. The state actually contracted Marvin Oliver to revitalize traveling canoes here in the Salish Sea. They wanted to represent the people of the Salish Sea, and you can't necessarily do that without including the indigenous people. So Marvin traveled up to Lummi, and he traveled out west to a couple of communities who still utilized traveling canoes at that time, and just asked, essentially hired people or contracted people from those tribes to build out canoes, and then traveled down to Seattle. They called it Paddle to Seattle. And that's where Journeys really started. It became an annual event called Paddle to Seattle. And then from there on it went, another community picked up the challenge, and another. So then Canoe Journeys essentially became this big community organized event where these communities, this year's Elwha, they pick up this challenge. They throw out the invitation sometimes years in advance because of how big the events are. And tribes or canoe families from different tribes will accept that challenge and leave their territory and join a big fleet of canoes that had already been traveling from their territory, and they'll stop tribe to tribe picking up more canoes. So as you get closer to the final destination, you have a fleet coming together. So back in 2012, there was the Lummi Youth Canoe Family was just being developed by Justin Finkbonner and Becky Kinley. And it was a youth program that was ran through our community that was with the goal of reconnecting youth back to our culture. I grew up in a day and age where still the culture wasn't seen as cool, it wasn't fad. It was like if you were practicing your culture, it was kind of corny and goofy. And kids my age and a lot of the older kids before me were more interested in partying. We had a real big problem with dropout rates, substance abuse, adolescent teens, just living at-risk lifestyles. So Justin and Becky took it upon themselves with the support of our tribe to create this program. And in 2013, they had a canoe built, which is the current canoe that we have. We left Lummi, and I remember we had trained some, and those paddles, it felt like the training paddles were grueling, so I had no idea what we were in for. It just felt like we were on the water forever. Like I had no idea what or why we were why we were doing this. And I was hungry and I was thirsty. And we ended up landing in Samish, and I got to see for the first time people asking for permission to come ashore, elders welcoming them to shore, people carrying canoes up out of the water, and then staying and hanging out and helping carry the other canoes as they came in, because over a 6-hour period, faster canoes are going to get ahead. That journey definitely like reshaped the way I thought about the water, the way I thought about prayer, the way I thought about challenging myself, because it was difficult. It was hard. I had to break a lot of comfort zones in that journey. One being out in the elements and trying to paddle through rain and fog and waking up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning and having to get out on the water. And when we landed in Quinault, I remember the dance floor was just like full of dancers and people singing, and people were packing canoes in, and I was just like blown away. And I was also really like shy, but when I got out on the dance floor and danced and sang, and it felt incredible. So yeah. The next year we went on our big journey up to Bella Bella, which is like 600 miles or so, maybe more. And that journey, I felt like for our canoe family, reshaped our identity, because we were the new kids on the block. We didn't have any songs. We were doing something different. And we went to Bella Bella. We were the only canoe family from Lummi that made that trek. So we went from like the new kids on the block to the only kids on the block. But we kept practicing as a canoe family. We kept learning the songs, the dances. It was interesting because it was like a moment of solitude from like all of the noise. Like as supportive as our community can be at home, it can also be really destructive too. And some of us just weren't living in good spaces. So having that break for all of us, I think, was necessary. It reshaped the way like I looked at the world. Being able to travel to these different communities, see these people, listen to, hundreds if not thousands of stories from people, coming into our camps, talking with us, coming across people as you made your way up. So, moments like that really kind of defined, what it really reshaped the way I seen the world. And it took me out of like this tiny community mindset where like, this is like as big as the world gets. It's like, no, like there's so much beauty even in like the little things and even in like the hardest days. And I feel like that trip just like really, as like a 14-year-old, reshaped just the way I looked at nature, the way I got to witness like healthy ecosystems, like flourishing and functioning, the most salmon I had ever seen, the most dolphins and porpoises I'd ever seen. Like hundreds of thousands of salmon returning, like finning out of the water. And then when we were ferrying to Bella Coola, thousands of porpoises. I'd never seen anything like it, just flipping everywhere around us. Like as far as you can see, they were just flipping. And it's like, things like that you'll never forget. So to be able to go up that far and witness these functioning real like ecosystems and these healthy ecosystems, and then also be like really practicing your health and connecting to yourself, your spirit. Even though we accidentally kind of came about being a part of this canoe family, it reshaped the way our lives could have been, and it provided a safe space for us, nurtured us. It taught us about responsibility to the ecosystem, responsibility to our communities, responsibility to our culture, and carrying that forward. So my second year on the water, I started training to skipper. I remember the first time I got on the canoe in the skipper seat, I spun that canoe like 4 times. But eventually I started getting the hang of it, and then it felt like I didn't, or I wasn't, because it's like something new would be thrown at me. So much different things that you learn over a long period of time being a canoe skipper, that I felt like I had the opportunity to learn about on that journey. And then I paddled to Muckleshoot the next year. I was 16 at that time, so yeah, I was one of the youngest skippers on the water for sure. And then that winter, my mentor actually passed away. One of our canoe family leaders and skipper and mentor and best friend, he ended up taking his own life. So then in 2017, paddled to Nisqually. I ended up taking full control of the skipper position, and my brother and I, actually, Raven, he also trained and was training to be a skipper too. We brought the canoe down to Nisqually, sharing places, kind of teaching other people on the canoe how to skip and stuff as well. And I just felt like there was so much that I didn't know. I definitely wasn't ready. I got lost that year and turned what was supposed to be like a 8 to 10 hour paddle into a 16-hour paddle. Like, I felt really defeated. And then the emotion of our crew, having lost one of our leaders and our mentors, it devastated us. But we made our way down. We got to Nisqually and all in one piece. And we actually brought back a song that our skipper had made for us back in Bella Bella. It's a love song, and we brought it back to honor him and honor our families. It's only song that we had. Our culture was at a point where it was endangered. We were in danger of losing it. So being able to carry it forward and pass it on to the next generation and make sure they inherit it in an appropriate and proper way, is really important for me, to me. And how I gained responsibility for protecting and preserving the environment and wanting to do that comes from being a part of this canoe family.